The DC Vault is one of those books that tells you everything you want to know or have ever wanted to know about DC Comics. Let's look at the cover. You can already tell this is going to be one amazing trip through history. Martin Pasco and the president of DC, Paul Levitz, has put together a collection unlike any fan has ever seen. You can definitely tell this is a true museum in a box. The back cover alone had me so excited. Look at all the stuff you get with this book. A Wonder Woman button, a Batman mask, tons of posters and memos, concept art. I've got to get this wrapper off as soon as possible. I'm about to go crazy with excitement. The first thing I noticed was the stupid cardboard in the middle of the book. I know it's there to protect the book, but in the end it caused more damage than it did good. It looks like the cardboard scratched the ink right off the page. Another thing that worried me right off the bat was the spiral binding. It looked like it was way too fragile to support the weight of all the pages. It definitely wouldn't last if you were to read this book several times, so you have to be very careful with this one. But wow, what is that I see? It's the Batcave. You could definitely tell how OCD Batman was just by looking at it. I mean, look at the wax figures and check out the giant heads, or that classic Batman card catalog. I could stare at this page for days looking for Waldo, but that horrible scratch on the page kinda ticked me off. And I like my stuff to stay in mint condition if possible, but that stupid cardboard tried to ruin it for me. But Chapter 1 really got me interested. From the days of Spicy Detective to new comics, it was time to really get comfy and dig into this book. But the more I got into it, the more I noticed that something must have went horribly wrong at the printing press, because pages 13 and 14 look like somebody just took a bite right out of the page. I mean, seriously, I just opened this brand new book, and there's small problems that really just make me upset. It would be like a Harry Potter or a Twilight fan buying the book to find whole pages missing. At first I thought that maybe this was how the book is supposed to be, but nope, it was a page ripped right out of the book. But let's forget about all that for a moment, because there's some really great stuff in this book, like the picture of the Ashcan cover from the original Action Comics. This was the first issue that Superman ever appeared in, and it's really interesting to see that Superman wasn't their original cover choice, but instead almost went with a more graphic looking image. The next few chapters covered the birth of the DC heroes, and even a lot of the DC heroes that I'd never heard about, like page 18 that featured the strange adventures of Mr. Weed, or page 25 featuring Old Slam Bradley or Dr. Occult. But what seemed to be the main focus was Superman, and rightfully so, because if you love Superman like I do, you will love this book. But who doesn't know about Superman? The best parts of this book stem from the birth of the Flash, Sandman, Green Lantern, and even Batman. Knowing how they were created and the history really helps to gain tons of respect for each character. As I got into this book, I would pause for a bit to check out some of the physical content, most of which is pretty cool, but some of it left me a little bit disappointed, like the Wonder Woman button that's shown on the back of the book. It looks cool, right? Well, don't get too excited, because once you get the book open, you find that it's not a button at all, but a piece of paper. It would have been much cooler to have an actual button. But for every fault that this book has, it tends to make up for with something even cooler, like the Junior Justice Society of America decoder. So how does it work? Well, there's a window on the back and you pick the name of your favorite character, and then you flip it over and each letter has its own sequence of codes. But what kinda sucks is there's nothing really here to decode. It would have been much better if they would have included the Superman 10 booklet decoder. The Superman 10 book that's included is a reprint of a mini magazine that was given out by various clothing stores. I seen this code and I was left wondering why there was no decoder for this page. The only thing that I could understand from the coded page is that some kid fell or something and Superman's on his way to save him. Things like the Superman 10 stuff and the public service announcements are a real treat to fans. These PSAs covered a lot of issues that were going on at the time. Smoking is for Squares is a pretty cool example. It tells the story of Bob who doesn't give in to the other kids telling him to take a butt. I said butt. These PSAs show that even in the late 40s and early 50s, DC really touched on some serious issues of the time. In Stand Up for Sportsmanship, a kid is getting shunned because he's from a different country. That's when Batman and Robin rush in to explain that they shouldn't listen to crackpot lies about people of different races, religions, or even live in other countries. In the Brotherhood quote in PSA, I was actually pretty shocked that DC was brave enough to even include a quiz for kids that included some racy topics. I wasn't shocked that they included things like alligators, cabbage, and detective stories. Those things I could see on a kid's quiz, but they really pushed the envelope by adding Baptists, Jews, foreigners, and Negroes. I'm not making this up. This stuff was actually on this quiz called the Brotherhood Quotient. Throughout the book, there is a lot of amazing concept art as well as memos and reprinted promo stuff, and I had a lot of fun reading this book, especially when I got into the late 70s and early 80s stuff. Reading about how DC came up with the idea of Infinite Crisis is a story within itself. You get to learn how it completely changed some of the superhero origin stories, as well as killed off a lot of the popular characters. It's nice to see how much work was involved in making it happen. You'll also learn stuff that you may not have known about when it comes to the movie and TV adaptations of the DC heroes, like Superman the movie, the Wonder Woman TV series, the Superboy TV series, Lois and Clark. The list goes on, and this book does a great job at explaining it all. The book even had me excited to see Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White in Snyder's Superman films. On page 74, it gives a glimpse at an African-American version of Perry White that wasn't used for Superman the Animated Series. I mean, you could tell Fishburne is the perfect casting when you look at this concept art. I could go on about this book forever. It's become one of my favorite books. Each time you read it, you'll find something new. But don't expect that cool stuff on the back cover to be what you think it is, because I'm still disappointed over the Wonder Woman button being nothing but a piece of cardboard, because that was a huge letdown as a fan. And whoever is printing these books needs to go back and re-inspect them, because nobody likes buying books with pages ripped out of them or damaged from silly cardboard covers that's supposed to protect the book. If I didn't like this book so much, I would have tried to get a replacement, one without all the damage and stuff to it, but over time it's become one of the best purchases I've ever made. And that's not all, folks. There's even a Marvel museum in a box.